Hey everybody, this is Jack Hammer of the Santa Rosa Press Democrat. Hope you're all doing well. As you know, today was day 2 of the 49ers mandatory 3-day minicamp here at Levi Stadium in Santa Clara, and here's what stood out to me. First off, going to be big picture, going to go with the defense. It was a really strong day for the 49ers defense overall. Their defensive line really stood up today, putting constant pressure on the quarterback and forcing 2 interceptions, one from Trey Lance and one from Nate Sudfeld. We'll get into those interceptions a little bit. But the defense overall had a big day. You know, some of it could have been the number of starters who are missing from the 49ers offensive side. The 49ers just have a really deep unit, especially on the defensive line. And the defensive line stood up and really is part of what made it so hard for the 49ers today on the offensive side. Kerry Hyder, that's the first name I want to bring up. You know, Hyder, when he was here with the 49ers in 2020, he recorded a career-high 8.5 sacks. Last year, he was up in Seattle, came back to the 49ers this offseason, and on Wednesday, he made his presence felt in a big way. Hyder beat right tackle Jalen Moore around the right side on back-to-back plays for would-be sacks, and then for good measure, went over to the other side and beat Justin Skule around the left side of the 49ers offense for a sack. Then, he wasn't done. He came back a little bit later in practice, beating tight end Tanner Hudson for a sack on Nate Sudfeld. So a big day from Kerry Hyder, definitely showing why the 49ers brought him back. And you got to remember, like I said, 8.5 sacks with the 49ers in 2020. That was a career high. He also had 8 with the Detroit Lions. Those were his 2 career high years, both coming while working with Chris Kocurek, who he's back with here in San Francisco. Next up on the list was Kemoko Turay, the free agent acquisition from Indianapolis. He's looked good throughout this offseason. He's looked explosive. Today, he was able to use that first step, just exploded around the corner to get around Colton McKivitz for a sack of Nate Sudfeld. Just would have been Sudfeld was able to get the ball off. You got to remember, in these situations, like what we have during minicamp and throughout practices, they don't sack the quarterbacks. They let them get the ball off. But there would definitely been a couple of sacks today from both of those two, and it didn't just stop with Turay and Hyder. You know, also you saw Charles Omenihu. You know, the 49ers traded for Omenihu midway through last season, and Omenihu primarily rushed from the inside during his time with Houston, very similar to how the 49ers used Arden Key over the second half of the year last year. And you know, today, what we saw from Omenihu is he took some reps actually in the interior of the 49ers defensive line. So that's something to keep an eye on as we go through this offseason, go through training camp and into the new season. I fully expect to see Charles Omenihu be used in a role similar to what we saw from Arden Key. Have him line up inside, have him take advantage of his speed and athleticism against guards and centers. That would be a strong way for the 49ers to utilize him. They did that a little bit last year with him. I would expect to see that more as they go into 2022. Sticking with the defensive line, we also have Samson Ebukam. You know, Ebukam came on strong last season once he was moved into the starting lineup about halfway through. He was able to finally focus solely on playing on the edge. He's been bounced between, with his time with the Rams, he bounced between playing on the edge and playing linebacker. But as a member of the 49ers, he's focused solely on that edge position, and it's allowed him to improve his pass rush moves. And he's looked explosive so far throughout OTAs, and he showed it again today during minicamp practice. Last piece along the 49ers defensive line is Drake Jackson. The rookie yesterday, I talked about him struggling to generate pressure against the 49ers offensive line. But today, he received rave reviews from his defensive teammates, Nick Bosa, among others, speaking up about how good he is and how, the athleticism that he brings to the table, his bend especially. Nick Bosa saying that he wished he had that kind of talent when he came to the 49ers. So Jackson definitely has caught the eye of his teammates on the defensive side of the ball. And today he was able to get a sack. He was able to beat Alfredo Gutierrez around the right side. He forced Brock Purdy up. Actually, it wasn't a sack, excuse me. But he was able to force Brock Purdy to have to scramble up the middle. So that pressure around the edge was a good sign from Drake Jackson today against Alfredo Gutierrez. So a positive sign there. Just going to take a second really quick just to see if there's any comments over there. Yeah, we definitely got the train running behind us over here. I might have to change my time. I think he came right around the same time yesterday as well. Let's see what else we've got. It was definitely real quick. Niner by Nature asked how bad was Trey's INTs. It was reported that Drake Jackson caused it. Trey under pressure, a problem. We'll get to that one in just a minute. I don't know if it was so much the pressure that forced the interception as much as it was just a solid play on the defensive side of the ball. And also the fact that he didn't have one of his normal wide receivers running the route. So let me get back to that because that's coming up right here in just a minute. We have Oren Burks first up, though, before we get to the interception from Trey Lance. Oren Burks, the free agent acquisition from Green Bay, the linebacker. He had a couple of really nice plays today, forcing a pass breakup, and then he also hauled in an interception of a pass from Nate Sudfeld. On the pass from Sudfeld, the interception there, kind of a weird play. Sudfeld play action to his left, rolled to his right, looked like he had a receiver open, and instead of just firing it in there, kind of short-armed it, didn't really follow through, didn't really put a hole on it, tried to be a little fine with it and just floated up over the top. Instead, the ball came up short and right into the hands of Burks along the right sideline, who took it back the other way. So a nice play by Burks to get the interception, helped out by a bad pass from Nate Sudfeld on that one. Just kind of like I said, kind of just short-armed it there, just didn't let it fly. What's interesting about that play in particular, it's not in my report, but since we're talking about the interception of Sudfeld, 49ers came back a few plays later at the end of their practice. They had Brock Purdy at quarterback. They ran the same play. Purdy was able to get outside around the edge, around Amenahu, and use his speed to get outside on the edge out there. And he was able to find the receiver. And unlike Sudfeld, he just let it rip. And it was a nice catch along the sidelines. And the 49ers decided to end practice after that one. It was so good. And then that brings us to the other interception of the day, and that's Leon O'Neal, the undrafted free agent out of Texas A&M. He stepped in front of a Keyshawn Johnson pass to intercept the Lance over the middle. That was a ball. Lance had some pressure. He stepped up into the pocket, let it go. Good coverage by O'Neal to beat Johnson to the catch point and snag it away from him. If that had been Deebo Samuel or Brandon Ayuk, not so sure that that's an interception, but you got Keyshawn Johnson in there instead today because the 49ers didn't have any of their top receivers going today. There was no Deebo Samuel, obviously, although we did see him on the field today. He caught a few passes and while they're doing in warm-ups, playing catch with Brandon Ayuk and Juwan Jennings. All three of them didn't practice today. So, that played a little bit of a role in there too, but I don't want to take anything away from O'Neal. That was a nice job of him to read the eyes of Lance and step up and be able to beat the receiver ball and come away with the interception. So, the question earlier was about the pressure. Definitely some pressure, but I think that had more to do with when you go back and you watch, go back last year and watch Deebo Samuel, for example, and the number of times that he caught balls over the middle from Jimmy Garoppolo, where it looked like it was going to be an interception, but because of the way that he attacks the ball and goes back is able to kind of adjust his route and get back to the quarterback, it eliminates the defender a little bit. And in this situation, Johnson's just running straight across. The defender hits him, gets to the point first, and comes up with a pick. So nice play by O'Neal. The interception gets credited to Lance, but it wasn't necessarily a bad play on his own. That brings us to George Odom, the free agent safety from the Green Bay. He's George Odom. I'm sorry. I mentioned earlier I was talking about the linebacker, and I said he was from Indianapolis. And in reality, it's George Odom who was from Indianapolis. The free agent safety made a solid play in run support on this one. What you had was Jermichael Hasty. They were trying to looked like kind of maybe an outside zone to the left side. Odom read it nicely, burst up through the line of scrimmage, and he was in perfect position. Would have made the tackle, just tagged him, and he kept going on. But Odom is expected to be a core special teams contributor and provide depth behind Jimmy Ward, and it's plays like we saw today that would help facilitate that and make it happen for him. There's going to get into, there's a lot of questions here that we're going to get into. I'll go back through those. I think I might have addressed the one right now, though, about Brandon Ayuk. He did not practice today. There was no Juwan Jennings either. So 49ers were down to 4 through the rest of their depth chart on the wide receiver room today. But that brings us to Ray McCloud. McCloud has been very good throughout the offseason. Practices have been open to the media. Today, the former Pittsburgh Steeler was targeted a team high 6 times. 2 of those targets went for touchdowns off the arm of Trey Lance. The first one was deep down the left sideline where McLeod was able to beat Ambry Thomas. It was just a simple go route. He just used his speed and was able to get there and catch the ball, take it across the end zone for a touchdown. And then the second came late in practice, and they were working on a specific drill where the offense doesn't pick up the first down, they turn the ball over. On this one, McLeod ran a deep dig route from left to right. Lance saw him and was able to stick it on him, hit him in stride. And McLeod was able to run through the ball, really nice acceleration through the catch point from McLeod, split the 49ers defense and went all the way into the end zone for a touchdown. So really nice play by McLeod there. He's really shown out well so far in the offseason program. It's going to be interesting to see how he looks as they continue on into training camp, but everything's pointing up right now. The needle's fully pointing up for Ray McLeod, a wide receiver for the 49ers. And that brings us to Trey Lance. It's been the case throughout this early offseason practices. Lance was on target. And today, the second-year quarterback completed 10 to 15 attempts. Included among those 10 completions were the 2 deep touchdowns on back-to-back throws, and then another to Ray McLeod that we mentioned earlier. You know, the thing with Lance today, he had that deep throw to I was just talking about McLeod, and then the other one, the very next play, they go deep again. This time he hit Jordan Matthews with a deep throw. Matthews was kind of coming from left to right, deep down the middle. The safety kind of stepped up and was able to get behind O'Neal, and the other safety, he was able to get in there, and Lance put it right on him in the end zone for a touchdown. Another big play for the 49ers today. In addition to the throwing, Lance also was able to show off his running ability. Jalen Moore, we talked about Jalen Moore getting beat by Kerry Hyder. Well, one of those plays, Lance saw it coming, was able to step up and threw the pocket and took off up the middle for a nice gain. And that running ability is going to be a big piece for Trey Lance. It's going to be a nice addition to the 49ers offense as we go into 2022. To see a hole and have to take off, and he has the athleticism to do that. And I've talked quite a bit about Trey Lance and his running, and not wanting to see it come off of designed runs, but see it come off of plays like this, where he drops back to pass and there's some pressure and he's able just to get up the field and go. So a really nice play there, and he's fast and he has good wheels, and especially in a situation like that where he's able to kind of get a pop into it because he's stepping up into the pocket. That's usually when he's at his best. So really nice play there by Trey Lance, and it's good to see him use his legs. And then to the running backs. One running back in particular, Jordan Mason. Keep talking about Jordan Mason, right? The undrafted free agent running back out of Georgia Tech. Seems like every practice he's making at least one big play. And today it came a little bit late in practice. It was during that period towards the end where they're having to pick up first downs to move on to the next play. And Mason took a handoff from Brock Purdy over the right side, found a big hole over there, and just exploded through it and took it down the field for a big gain. Mason, again, like I've been keep saying it, sound like a broken record probably to you guys, but he is showing up well in practice so far. I'm really looking forward to seeing what Mason looks like once we get into training camp and they put the pads on and the hitting starts, and if he's able to continue to show out the way that he has so far. That's going to be something to really keep our eye on as we get into the training camp. And then last but not least, I want to hit real quick on Aaron Banks and Jake Brendel. The 49ers are looking to replace their left guard and their center after the retirement of one of them retired. The other one took off in free agency to the Jets. And I think it's noteworthy that both Banks and Brendel have worked with the first unit throughout off-season practices. And even more important than that is that while the rest of the offensive linemen on the first unit have moved around, from the left side to the right side, in some cases from guard to tackle, we've seen Banks and Brendel stay at left guard and center throughout. They've taken all of the reps so far this offseason. From what I've been able to gather, it looks like Aaron Banks has been at left guard, Jake Brendel at center throughout. And that's going to be important for them to get those reps and get as much activity as they can, as much practice as they can as we head into the training camp, and the 49ers are able to get a good read on them. So that kind of answers your question there, Niner by Nature. You asked if it was going to be Brendel or Brunskill at the starting center, and right now everything's pointing to Brendel being the guy. We'll see how that plays out. obviously, as we get into training camp and if the Foreigners decide to make a move and bring somebody in. But for right now, Brenden Hall has taken all of the snaps with that first unit. So it appears that he will be the starting center moving forward. We'll see how that plays out during the training camp portion. Really quick, got a couple other questions I want to get to. I saw one up here. It was a good one. Leaving asks if Moore is spending any time at tackle. He is. That's what I was talking about, where these guys are shifting some from the left to the right, some from guard to tackle. Moore primarily is working with the starting unit to start off with at the right guard spot, but they do put him with the starters at times out at right tackle. He's been really struggling at the right tackle spot, but when he's playing guard, he seems to be able to stand up and do pretty well. So, it'll be for Moore. It's I'm not sure if that right side is going to work for him as the offensive tackle. We know he started there last year against Jacksonville and got moved out about halfway through that game, and we're kind of seeing that continue on through the early portion here of the offseason with the 49ers. And look at that! I got my partner in crime, the man Rob Shue, says consider me a member of the Jordan Mason fan club solely on your observations, Jack. Well, hey, let's hope that he continues to show out and. I've been talking him up quite a bit, so let's see how he works once they get into training camp. It'll be fun to watch. How does Burford look? I've talked about Burford quite a bit. I like what he's done. He's a strong guy. You can see his hands and footwork. He looks really good and really working quite a bit with the interior of the offensive lineman, especially specifically at right guard over the last week. Last couple of weeks, been seeing a lot of him at right guard since the veterans showed up. So throughout OTAs and so on, we've seen him at right guard. But Burford looks good. It looks solid. I'm looking forward to seeing him this offseason. Not offseason, but you understand what I'm saying when we get to training camp. Gav, how you doing? I hope you like the interview that we got to have today with Kyle Juszczyk, but he asked, what are your thoughts on Cartershannon's throwing motion? He's a future 49ers quarterback. LOL. He's got a little bit of a wind up, and the ball wobbled a little bit a couple of times when he threw the ball. So he's got a little bit to work on, but he's got plenty of time to do it. I saw him playing some catch with Deebo Samuel today. Tried to get a little bit of video of him later on, missed some of it, but let's see. We got this one really quick. I might have missed this one from Moses. He asked if he could. What I'm seeing from Diolenore and Thomas, these guys both struggled last year, right? Moses with especially with guys on the deep throws. We saw Lenore struggle with it again. Was it Philadelphia? Thomas has been kind of up and down with it a little bit. Today, just got cooked on the deep route by Ray McLeod. But other than that, showed up pretty well on an earlier route to McLeod. They tried to get him on the deep route, and Thomas was in perfect position on that one. So it's kind of a hit and miss thing, but for the most part, he's doing pretty well. Just kind of keep an eye on him, but definitely he's slated to be a number 2 cornerback for the 49ers and be able to get in there and step in and play. We've seen him last year, the second half of the year, what he was able to do, helping the Flyers get into the playoffs and go make a deep run. So we know that Thomas has that ability. Lenore on the other side, he struggled a little bit more. Hookett had a reception today on a throw out to the left side, so he had one. Other than that, I haven't really seen a whole lot of him so far. This brings up the other one. He throws out 9 by nature, throws out Tyrion Davis-Price, Mitchell, Sermon, Wilson, and Mason. Who's the 1-2 punch? Right now, I'd say it's probably going to be Mitchell and Sermon. Just based off of what we've seen so far. I don't know. Tyrion Davis-Price was not on the field again today, so haven't seen him on the field at practice the last couple of days. Must be working through something. Didn't ask Kyle Shanahan that yesterday when he was at the podium, and otherwise we don't get that information. So we'll see if we can find something out tomorrow on his status. But right now, I think it's going to be Mitchell and Sermon. We'll see what happens. But Mason's going to have to beat out either Jeff Wilson Jr. or Jermichael Hasty to make this roster, I think. I will get. I did fail to mention that Jeff Wilson Jr. did have a really nice run early in practice. It was to the right side. They had a really good push by Moore and the right tackle, who I believe was School. They got a really good push up off the line of scrimmage, and Jeff Wilson Jr. caught up there, got right behind him, and was able to make a cut and just exploded up the field. It was a really nice run for him. And Wilson has mentioned that he's feeling better. He talked to us last week. He's feeling better than he was last year, dealing with a knee injury that he had. So definitely doing well. Haven't seen any of Charlie Warner. He's been the missing man so far. I would say Ross Dwelly is probably going to be tight end too, but I didn't see him get a reception today. Sergeant Bublik coming in. He asked me what my favorite part was from today. I think my favorite part of the day was seeing the defense step up. You know, the 49ers offense is kind of dominated throughout. I know Trey Lance had a good day today, but there was a number of times today where the defensive line really was able to put some pressure on the quarterback and make them have to move around. It was good to see that. It was good to see them get the interceptions and get the turnovers. You know, the offense still had a couple big plays, but the defense, it was nice to see them step up. So I think that was my favorite part of the day was seeing the defense step up a little bit. Seeing Deebo Samuel catch those passes from Juwan Jennings. I think those are probably my favorite parts of today. We'll see about what happens tomorrow. I'm not sure if practice is going to be taking place. There's been it might be canceled for tomorrow, so we'll see how that works out. But if not, definitely looking forward to getting back out here tomorrow for day 3 of 49ers minicamp and see how things are working out. Get back here and bring it all to you. Gav comes in. He asks, should we cut or trade Hokett now that we have Poe on the team? Is he in danger of becoming the forgotten man on the 49ers? No, Jason Poe actually looked good today. He was working at left guard like always, but he looked good. He was solid. He's somebody who I talked about him struggling during rookie minicamp, but I would say that Jason Poe has gotten past those rookie jitters and has really started to look more impressive over the last few days of practice. Today he was working with a second unit and held up well inside at left guard. So a pretty good day there for Jason Poe. I don't think that he has anything to do with Josh Hokett though. Poe is focused solely on the left guard spot, and we'll see how that works out for him. And then Lee asks, how does Castro Fields look among the young DBs? He looks solid. He's I don't know if I've seen him necessarily flash at this point, but he looks solid. He looks like he should be there. I haven't seen him make any big plays yet, but that's to come. We'll see how that. He's a guy that the 49ers were high on. He's going to be here throughout minicamp, so really looking forward. I'll give you a little bit better look of Castro Fields when we get into minicamp and so on. I'll have to maybe spend a little bit more time focusing on the coverage than focusing on the offense. Today I was really focusing on the offensive line, defensive line play. If we have practice tomorrow, I'll give you guys a little bit better look of try to give you a little bit better look at what I'm seeing from the secondary. Can't see everything at all at one time on the field. You can get bits and pieces of it, but Castro Fields has done well so far at times. Moses, he asked if Thomas was in man press coverage when he got beat. He was in man coverage. I don't remember if it was in press or not, but he was definitely in man coverage, and just McLeod was just able to get off the line, get around him to the outside, and get up the field and reestablish his position on him and just run by him. It was a really nice play on his part, but I apologize. I don't know for sure if it was man press or if it's just man coverage. So I'll get that information for you. I'll keep an eye on it for you as we move forward. Gav, I was going to get you some juice footage today. I was going to do the running backs, but then I decided I got sidetracked by watching the playing catch between Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk and Juwan Jennings. So that sidetracked me. So instead I focused on the wide receivers and bounced over to the offensive linemen a little bit. But tomorrow, if we have practice tomorrow, I will try to get you some footage of the running backs, because That was, like I said, that was one of the areas that I wanted to get over and get some footage for you guys of. Wasn't able to do it today, so keep an eye on the channel for tomorrow. Practice goes down, I'll be sure to get you some running back footage as well. That's about it for today's coverage. Like I said, good day all around. The defense really, for the most part, I would say the defense stood up and stood out and won the day. Offense had their moments, though, so it was a good back and forth between those two. Thanks, everybody. If you could do me a favor before you leave, if you could hit that like button. If you like what you see and you like what you're on the channel and you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button and the bell notification as well. That'll the bell notification is important because that way you know every time we go live and you don't miss any of it. So thanks so much for tuning in today. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, and I expect to be back tomorrow with another breakdown here from minicamp. If minicamp does not go down, you can still catch me tomorrow night on the Hammer and Nail show at 5:30 with my partner in crime, Jesse Naylor. Take care, everybody. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, and we'll talk soon.